It's 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. The house is strangely quiet. Too quiet. You creep down the hallway. You peer into the living room. Your heart thumps once in your chest. But there they are. Your toddler is sitting silently on the rug, not painting the walls, not pulling the cat's tail, just playing nicely, lining up their blue cars, then the red cars, then the green ones, a perfect, precise, flawless train of plastic across the floor. You take a breath. Relief washes over you. It's the closest thing to peace you've had all day. But then you say their name. Nothing. You say it again, louder this time. They don't look up. They don't pause. They just reach for the next toy and place it at the end of the line, like you don't exist, like the line is the only thing in the world that matters. And something shifts in your chest, something quiet, something you can't quite name. This quiet moment, this simple, innocent act might not be what you think. It might be a whisper from their developing brain, a whisper you cannot afford to ignore. Most parents brush this off, and honestly, why wouldn't they? Toddlers do strange things all the time. They stack cups for 20 minutes. They open and close doors like it's a full-time job. So when a child lines up toys, it feels easy to label it as quirky, cute, maybe even a sign of focus. Grandparents say it means the child is neat. Friends say their kid did that too and turned out fine. So parents wait. They watch. They shrug. They tell themselves not to overreact. And sometimes that is true. Sometimes it really is just a phase. But here is the part that changes everything. Researchers who study early childhood do not only look at what a child does, they look at what the behavior is replacing. They look at what is missing while that lining up happens. The silence, the lack of back and forth play, the absence of shared attention. Because when a behavior keeps replacing connection week after week, month after month, researchers start asking a very different question. Not what the child likes, what the child may be missing right now. To understand this, we have to understand the explosion happening inside your child's skull. Between 12 and 36 months, the toddler brain is like a construction site that never sleeps. At birth, a baby's brain has almost all the neurons it will ever have, but it doesn't have the connections. During these toddler years, the brain is forming 1 million new neural connections, called synapses, every single second. This process isn't random, it's guided by experience. The child environment is the architect. Researchers at Harvard's Center on the Developing Child have found a strict use-it-or-lose-it principle at play. The neural pathways that get used often are strengthened and made permanent. The pathways that aren't are pruned away, like dead branches on a tree. Harvard also explains that young brains are wired through what they call serve and return interaction. A child makes a sound, a look, a gesture. An adult responds. The child responds again. That back and forth is not extra. It is the workout that builds brain architecture. MIT researchers found something even more specific. They discovered that conversational turns, the actual back and forth exchanges between parent and child, predicted brain development more powerfully than anything else. Not vocabulary, not educational toys, the duet itself. The brain does not just want input, it wants response. And this is where the lining up of toys becomes critical. The primary job of a toddler brain is to build the social brain, wiring for empathy, for two-way communication, for joint attention, for imaginative play. When a child instead spends hours absorbed in rigid, repetitive solo activities, lining up cars, sorting by color, arranging in the same pattern over and over, the social brain gets starved of the interaction it desperately needs to grow. The lining up of toys is not the problem. It is what the lining up is replacing. Now, here is the difference every parent needs to hear. Normal lining up is flexible. A child lines up toy cars, then crashes them laughing, then invites you to join, then turns the line into a parade. It is one moment inside a bigger world of play. Concerning lining up feels narrower, rigid, hard to interrupt, hard to expand. There are 3 things to watch. The first is intensity. If your toddler becomes deeply upset when the line is moved, broken, or changed, and that reaction feels far bigger than the situation, pay attention. Ask yourself, is this play or is this ritual? Normal play uses an object for its purpose. A car gets rolled. A cup gets pretended to drink from. Concerning play ignores the purpose entirely and focuses only on the pattern. The distress when the line is disrupted is the real signal. The second is disconnection. In normal play, you can walk over and add a car to the line. Your child notices you. They might move your car, but they engage. A child sending a signal will treat you like you don't exist, or react with immediate, inconsolable rage if you disrupt their line. The line is not a game, it is a sanctuary. The third is what surrounds the behavior. Does your child pretend? Does a spoon become an airplane? Does a block become food for a stuffed animal? If most of their play involves arranging, sorting, or studying objects, and very little of it involves pretending, sharing, or inviting you in, the pattern is worth taking seriously. And here's a simple test. Walk over and say, "Wow, show me." Do they glance at your face? Do they smile because you noticed? Do they shift the game to include you? Or do they stay completely sealed inside the activity as if you are not there? That difference between enjoying a pattern and disappearing into a pattern is one of the most important things a parent can learn to see. Here is where I need you to take a breath. When we talk about rigid, repetitive behavior and missing social connection, most parents' minds jump to one specific frightening word, the A word. But lining up toys does not automatically mean that. This behavior is a symptom, not a diagnosis. A child who obsessively lines things up could be dealing with sensory processing challenges, completely overwhelmed by the sounds, sights, and chaos of the world, and using the line as the only way they know how to create order. They are trying to self-soothe. It could be early anxiety. Rigid order provides a fleeting sense of control in a world that feels scary. In some cases, it can even be a sign of giftedness, pattern recognition, systems thinking, an extraordinary early mind. The behavior alone is never the full story. But here is what does not change regardless of the reason. Timing. The brain plasticity of a 2-year-old is not the brain plasticity of a 4-year-old. The connections forming right now, at this exact moment, form faster and more flexibly than they ever will again. Early action does not just help, it transforms outcomes in ways that later action simply cannot replicate. You are not overreacting by paying attention. You are doing exactly what this window requires. So what do you do today? Not someday, today. First, get on the floor, not to stop the lining up, not to redirect it, to join it. Place your own toy at the end of the line. Make a sound. See if they notice. See if they make room for you. That small moment of parallel play is often the first bridge into a child's private world. How they respond will tell you more than any article ever can. Second, introduce one tiny disruption. Move one toy, gently, playfully, not to upset them, to test flexibility. Watch what happens, not to judge, to understand. Their reaction is information. Third, start paying attention with something more than memory. 1 week of short phone videos, notes on when the behavior happens, how long it lasts, whether they ever invite you in. When you sit down with a pediatrician or developmental specialist, this record transforms a gut feeling into something a professional can actually work with. And please, make that appointment, not because something is definitely wrong, but because clarity is always better than waiting. A good developmental pediatrician, speech therapist, or occupational therapist can often spot in one session whether the issue is flexibility, sensory regulation, anxiety, or nothing concerning at all. Clarity is calming. Uncertainty is what keeps parents awake at 3 a.m. If you've been watching your child do this for weeks and telling yourself it is nothing, this is not the moment to feel guilty about that. You were doing what every parent does. You were hoping. You were giving them time. You were not ready to ask the question yet. But you're asking it now, and that matters more than when you started. You cannot know what you have never been taught. You saw your child playing and you felt relief. That's the most human reaction on the planet. Your child does not need a perfect parent. They need a present one, a curious one, a brave one. That quiet thing in your chest that brought you here today, that is not anxiety. That is instinct. And instinct, in the first 3 years of a child's life, is one of the most valuable tools you have. Trust it. If your child lines up toys, do not scroll past this and promise yourself you will think about it later. Later is how warning signs turn into missed chances. Subscribe to Tiny Mind Lab because this is what we do here. We take the research that lives inside academic journals and bring it to the parents who actually need it. No fluff, no fear-mongering, just science that changes how you see your child. And tell me in the comments, does your toddler line up toys? What happens when you try to join in? Your answer might be exactly what another parent needs to read today. The next video is about a behavior most parents actively praise and why in certain children that praise might be making things quietly worse. You won't want to miss it.